Welcome back, Brawlers! I am OBG, and today we're going to talk about Prince and Princesses, also known as the Royals. Our previous video for beginner players on how to play Dwarves had a great response and a great reaction, and I want to continue that series with the Royals. So let's talk about how to get the crown with Royals. First of all, what are the good side of Royals? They are great at making treasures. They have a quest unit at every single level. They are their level 3 and level 4 guys are people that often play in your level 6 comp, so you'll end up setting those guys up for triples. So you're going to get a lot of treasures with him. They work great on anything that triggers with treasures, or if you just like to see a lot of treasures. Secondly, they are an easy transition. They have very distinct setups, such as Romeo and Juliet, that you can transition into another build with very easily. They also transition very well into any good boy build, whether it be good trees or anything like that. So there's a lot of transition opportunities here. They are not nearly as streamlined as Dwarves were. The third thing is XP game. XP game is the most powerful strategy in the game today. It's actually potentially too strong, but we're going to get into that right now. One of the princesses is the adventurer, and she is a person is a 1/1 princess who gives you an experience every time you kill someone with her. So that will get you up to level 6 faster, since it's 1 XP per win, or per fight, really. So every time she gains an XP, you're 1 round ahead of everybody else who didn't get XP that round. So when did you not play them? First of all, they are very good now. They aren't the best comp out there. That's probably round table trees, but they are very, very strong. And they will win a lot of lobbies, and as such, a lot of people will be in them, especially since there's certain heroes that we'll talk about later that are very, very good for prince and princesses. Secondly, since they are focused on making treasures, getting triples, a lot of their keys count on who you attack and slays and that kind of thing, and they are highly contested. It's very easy to whiff. You can start off strong and then just not see a Juliet ever. And they have some very key parts that if you don't see them, can really start very, very poorly. Uh, Third thing is they're kind of slow starters. So your adventurer is a 1/1. Your Brave Princess is a 4/3. Your Arthur's a 3/3. So you're going to have some issues early on winning fights, and you can find yourself falling very quickly down the lobby and being in trouble. And I've lost many a game where I had finally stabilized with Royals and just run into a buzzsaw of another comp and been out because I didn't have any room for error. And that's a challenge with Prince and Princesses. If you can get them going though, they can be really, really strong. So let's talk about what you're looking for early. The biggest thing you're looking for is Prince Arthur. If he shows up in your first shop at level 3, that's your pivot. Grab Arthur and go. Adventurer shows up. It's not necessarily a pivot, but it's a great buy. You generally want to have some sort of support for her because she's coming in as a 1/1, so she's really hard to get off if you don't have any support for her. Even if you do, she's still hard to get off. She is great in the 5 slot with something in front of her that buffs her, such as a stag. And then Cinderella is a very, very good 2-pick anyways. So if you see Cinderella and you pick her, it's going to get you a level 2 treasure eventually because you're going to cast spells. And at worst, she's going to be worth 2 gold if the treasure sucks. Or you might get a Hermes Boots or a Runestone or something out of it that actually works with your build. As such, she's always a great pick at 2. And if you have her and she's about to quest up, and you see Arthur, you can grab him, and she becomes an actual useful character at 4/4, gaining 2 +2/+2 or +4/+4 turn. She becomes actually a useful character. Let's talk about treasures. So the only real treasure pivot is the Sky Castle. If you hit a Sky Castle early, it's a real good indication you should go Prince and Princesses. The other two, Reduplicator and Sting, are really good treasures that synergize well with Prince and Princesses. Sting is just great all around. You always happy to see a Sting in the treasures, and great, giving +10 attack to that first slot where you can put a Venturer, where you can put a Brave Princess, where you can put a Polly, anything like that is really good. Reduplicator isn't something you would think of for Prince and Princesses, but if you're going the Romeo Juliet route, which I do recommend, summoning a second Juliet is really, really strong. Having two extra characters coming out towards the end of the fight is very, very helpful. So now let's talk about Hat Ball. So first of all, what is Hat Ball? Hat Ball is the ability to cast multiple spells in a turn, because when you cast a spell with that is directly on a character, with Ball is one of your artifacts, then you get another spell, and it doesn't count as your spell cast for the turn. Merlin's Hat makes your spells two less, so most of your targeted spells will will be 0 to cast. So that allows you to cast multiple spells in a turn, generally at 0 cost. Sometimes you can just chain cast them together. The benefit to this is heroes that trigger off a spell cast, such as Merlin and Potion Master, or B, if you have something else that triggers off of spell cast, such as the Aeon Mage. And we'll talk about him in a little bit. The reason I mention it here is Prince and Princesses often have several level 3 treasures coming through. They generally have Brave Princess, they generally have Prince Arthur, and they generally have Romeo. So all three of those are level 3 treasures. It's quite common for you to see Hat Ball come out of those 3 treasures. Now let's talk about a special scenario. The Midgame Bomb, as I call it. Fairy Godmother is exceptional in the mid-game. She's a very, very strong 4-drop, and really synergizes well with Royals because they're all good for the most part. Romeo and Juliet obviously synergize well together because Romeo resummons Juliet when she dies. You put Romeo in the back, you put Juliet in the front, and you get an extra Juliet. The key to Juliet, though, is that she retains all the buffs she had when she died. So Godmother is buffing your creatures when your good characters when they die, and Juliet, she dies after 2 other good characters have gone. Then she's a 14/26 now instead of a 14/14. Then you add another 14/14 from an upgraded Romeo summoner, and suddenly she's a 28/40. And you add a Reduplicator on top of that, so you're summoning 2 of her. Now you have 2 28/40s coming in at the end of the fight. It's very strong. This combo here, Fairy Godmother, Juliet, and Romeo, will carry you very far into the end game just by themselves. So let's talk about the end game. This isn't really a pivot as much as it is things that will make your build go off. Magic Sword. So this is the same theory as Thing was earlier. You really want to buff that first spot and make something that can take advantage of it. That pairs well with Good Boy. Good Boy gives everyone his attack and health, all good characters his attack and health, or if he's golden, double his attack and health. So if you have a Magic Sword, you put Good Boy in the 1 slot, he dies quickly, everybody gets +100 or +200 attack. Very, very strong. Secondly is Hercules. He's just it's a free 6 treasure for you. It's impossible not to take him when you see him offered. You'll often see people taking him in other non-royal builds just because he's such an easy 6 treasure, and 6 treasures are super strong, especially if you have any way to get it to a 7 treasure. Either that be Horde Dragon, or that is some other form of boost, such as a Runestone, or something else that gives you extra levels on your treasures. Remember, there's a level 3 treasure that gives you +2 levels on your treasures, and as we mentioned, you have a lot of level 3s that you're going to be pairing up, so it's quite common to come into 6 or 5 and see a Lancelot or a Hercules and be like, hey, there's a level 7 treasure if I can trigger that. Let's talk about the mid-game. You have a lot of options for mid-game Prince and Princesses. The most obvious, obviously, is Prince Arthur. He's going to be, he doesn't matter where he is, he does all his work pre-game. So you can put him anywhere on the board. He generally gets stuck in the back because he's generally smaller, and you want your bigger guys up front. Romeo and Juliet, we've talked about. Romeo should always be in the back. Juliet should always be in the front. Juliet has to die first before Romeo in order for her to be resummoned. It doesn't matter if you have one in your hand, it has to die from the board. The quest guys, the Cinderella and the Brave Princess, both are good quest minions. Brave Princess can be kind of hard to get off if you don't have a good support for her. So it's not uncommon to have people skip her. But if you have a good support that you've set up for something, whether it be a good witch or a mim or someone else that gives you attack at the front row, very, very strong if you can get her to go off. But don't be afraid to skip her if you don't have it set up right. Don't be afraid to skip Adventurer if you don't have something for her to boost her up and trigger her and really accelerate the XP growth. You don't want to be running a 1-1 sitting in the front row hoping to get a sleigh on something by accident and basically running an empty spot on your board. Sherwood Sure Shot. So if you're running some way to boost things, whether it be a Galahad or a Merlin or a Potion Master, ranged, if you could get a big ranged unit that can 2-for-1 something, it's very, very strong. Now, a 2-1 Sure Shot isn't going to do a lot on her own, but if you can get a couple pieces of her, really, really strong. If you can get her pumped up, especially if you can get her gold early, if you see a couple offered at 2 and 3 and you have an Arthur, suddenly Sure Shot becomes a real issue for people. Sleeping Princess is not technically a strong unit, but it gives you a lot of early game tempo. So she doesn't really give you anything long term like Romeo and Juliet do or Prince Arthur, but early on, as we discussed, Prince and Princesses are very weak. Because as you can see, this is a 2-1, this is a 1-1, this is a 2-2, this is a 4-3, this is a 3-3, this is a 2-3, this is a 5-3. Everything out there is not big. Sleeping Princess comes out with one buff as an 8-8. That's very strong. Especially at 3, that's one of the strongest units you can get at 3, and so she gives you a lot of tempo to keep yourself from falling down into the danger zone before you can really get things established. And she's also not a common pick for people because she does take some setup to get working. So unlike Cinderella, who will get grabbed, or Brave Princess, or Adventurer, because they're good in other comps, Sleeping Princess is often ignored, and you can easily triple her, and a tripled 8-8 that's getting 2 or 4 a turn, really, really strong, especially if you can get it early in 3. Let's talk about the endgame. You have a lot of options for endgame. Let's talk about Aeon Mage and Court Wizard. So the Court Wizard is your sniper. He does an attack every time one of your prince or princesses is killed during an attack. So notice that it's when they attack you, not when you attack them. So and so he comes out as a 4-2. You can tripling to make him an 8-4. That's not great. A 4 damage snipe isn't going to do a ton most of the time. But if you can pair him with an Aeon Mage, especially if you can pair him with an Aeon Mage and Hat Ball or Forking Wand, then you're going to be casting a lot of spells. Every time you cast a spell, you get 1 or 2 extra attack on Court Wizard, which, depending on whether it's a regular or a gold Aeon Mage, which really will make Court Wizard very strong. The second way you make Court Wizard strong is Good Boy. If you have the Magic Sword, or even Sting in some cases, with your Good Boy, suddenly he's getting 10, 20, 200 attack. If you get a gold Good Boy and a Magic Sword with a Court Wizard, you're looking at a 200 damage ranged sniper that attacks every time someone dies. That could be really strong and very, very helpful. Lancelot deserves some special conversation. We already talked about Hercules. We already talked about Good Boy and Romeo and Juliet. Remember, with Juliet, though, if you can trigger the Good Boy before Juliet dies, then when she gets resummoned by Romeo, she's going to have those stats from Good Boy again. So you're going to get double Good Boy power out of Juliet with that situation. Lancelot. He starts as a 7-7. It's a Slay +2/+2. And to get him to trigger his quest, you have to get him to 25 attack or health. Do not count on his Slay to trigger that 25 attack or health by itself. You need some help for him. Whether that's a fairy godmother in the back row, put Lancelot back there, let some people die to trigger his ability. If it's a Good Boy with a lot of attack, they can trigger him in one turn. Don't count on him getting enough slays. Even if you buy him at the first opportunity on 5, he is really hard to get slays on until he's big. Now, once he's big, he's on. Like, if you can get Lancelot triggered right away, get an Arthur in there buffing him, I've seen 90 Lancelots running around all over the place, and then Good Boy on top of that. Very, very strong if you can get him going, but don't count on the Slay to do it by itself. You make sure you have something else to trigger that with, have a plan to trigger that other than just having him kill things. So the other thing you could add in, which is really a late game finisher, so to speak, is Echowood. So the problem with Echowood is he starts as a 1-1. When he's gold, he's a 2-2. Before he gets any buffs, he's very easy to get killed. So fireballs, lightning bolts, smites, dragons, dragon breath, dragon snipes from the back, a lot of things kill Echowood. And that's a real issue because a lot of things, you have to have something that triggers before the fight starts in order to keep him alive, which is why you generally didn't see him run often in Good Boy comps, because he was too easy to snipe and there was nothing really to trigger him before the fight. It was only when Good Boy died, and he wasn't, a lot of times that wasn't the first thing that happened. Echowood would die instead. So with Prince Arthur, however, all of your royals are getting +2 or +4 before the fight starts. All of that goes on to Echowood. So if you've got Good Boy, 5 royals, and Echowood, and everybody is gold, then you're getting 5 guys +4/+4. That's 20/20 on Echowood. If he's gold, it's 40/40 on Echowood. So now he's a 42/42. He's much more safe in the back row before the fight even starts. Then Good Boy goes off, and everybody gets buffed, and then Lancelot slays, and he gets more buffs, and then Romeo resummons Juliet, and she gets 14/14 twice. It really starts to add up very quickly. He can be very, very strong. It's not unusual to see a 500 attack and health Echowood very early in the game with a strong Good Boy triggering him. So let's talk about, where do you go when you have your royals finished and the game's not over? So you've got your Hercules, you've got your Romeo, you got your Juliet, you got your Court Wizard, you got your Good Boy. Now what? Like, the game's not over and you don't want to sit on it. So the dream team, what you want to do when you get to that point is transition into a traditional good boy build, which generally revolves around Robin Hood. Robin Hood's very strong. He gives you +30 attack when he's gold onto your weakest guy, which can often be a Good Boy. And then that Good Boy can spread that attack to everyone else. He's range. He's also reducing your enemy attack by 30. And he can also, if Juliet's one of your weaker ones, buff Juliet, who then gets resummoned twice. So I really like the double Romeo with Juliet and the double Good Boy, because it really spreads everything around, buffs everyone, and Robin Hood does a great job of keeping you in the game with his range and everything like that. Makes it very, very strong. If you're playing someone, whoever the guy is that summons the guy from hand, you can even do like a Romeo, Robin Hood, Court Wizard. Court Wizard's not nearly as strong because you don't have all the prince and princesses here, but he is a range unit and he's good. So if you have a good range unit like that, or a way to turn an evil unit into a good unit and have them, range is very strong with buffs. So when you're giving somebody +30 in their range, they can often 2-for-1 people, especially if you have some beefy boys up front, like a Hercules, a big Hercules, or even a big Robin Hood or big Juliet from Good Boy buffing them up. So let's talk about the heroes. The obvious, I'm going to run Royals hero is the brand new Miri, King of the Lions. +2/+2 for each upgraded princess. That applies as long as Miri is in play. So you can't mask or hero change into Miri at the end game and get all the bonuses for the previous prince or princesses you have. If you go royals and you see something and you're like, oh, I'm just going to mask into Miri and get a whole bunch of bonuses, it doesn't work that way. Make sure to keep that in mind. You must have Miri on the board in order to get the bonuses while they're being built. The other ones that go really well together, Sir Galahad, you're getting a lot of treasures. You're keeping your guys around for a while. Works really well with royals. And Merlin, because once again, you're keeping your guys around for a while, and you like to cast spells. Hat Ball works well with Aeon and Merlin. If you Hat Ball Merlin, Aeon into a Court Wizard, you're going to roll through some people, and it's really, really strong, and will build a very strong board. So, that is it for Royals. I hope this helps a lot with getting your head around how to play and how to build Royals, and helping you bring home the crown with the Royals. OBG out.